I don't necessarily think there's any such thing as a bad night. I remember one particular night where we struggled to keep it going. I think it was Inishowen was on, or another similarly large festival weekend, and everyone had bailed for the weekend, and I was the lucky committee member who drew the straw. I was in Dublin, and so we said we would try running it this one time during, I'm nearly certain it was Inishowen, and there was about 8 singers in the room, and I sweated that night like I have never sweated before. And 3 people, one girl who was there and had never in her life sung before or since, actually felt herself under some pressure to sing a song because there was so few people there. And I remember coming away and going, yeah, there is actually a minimum number of people you need to make a good night, the way we run it, to make a good night. And that wasn't, we weren't Corey that night for sure anyway. But I was laughing because in the early days, which is to say maybe the first 10 years of my marriage, I would come back in at some unholy hour on a Saturday morning and, tiptoe through the front door and close it quietly behind me and tiptoe up the stairs and, sort of get into bed as absolutely quietly as I could, inevitably and unfailingly waking my husband at some point in the process. And he'd kind of sleepily murmur to me, was it a good night? And I'd always go, oh yeah, it was fantastic, it was brilliant, and that's fine. And then one night, I don't know what had happened, but it wasn't fantastic anyway. And as I was sliding under the sheets, he sort of mumbled, was it a good night? And I went, yeah, it was okay. And he was immediately 100% awake, and he went, why, what happened? What went wrong, So he slags me every night as a good night. But there's always something about every night in the Góilín. You might take one thing away, you might take one song away, or it might be the kind of combined effect of the whole night or something. But I've never gone home from the Góilín and went, well, that's a night of my life I'll never get back again, as I have with other sort of evening entertainments. There's always something in it. There's always some song or some exchange or something that would, lift your heart, definitely. That's the only night I remember, was that very, very small night. And maybe with, different 8 singers, it might have been an absolutely amazing night, and you might have heard songs from people that you'd never ever hear in other circumstances. But as to good nights, they are countless. There are too many to remember. I remember the Saturday night of the second Frank Hart Festival blew me away. And from talking to people, I think it definitely at the time people felt it was an amazing. But there have been other nights like that since that where it's just something special happens. Maybe somebody comes and if something happens to raise your game and people start bringing their A game, and then it's amazing, Or maybe it's the Faratee, it just depends. It depends. Just kind of, I'm remembering another, not a Góilín session, but I remember Tommy Munley doing a session on the Thursday night of the Willie Clancy week, and I always remember thinking there was artistry in the way we used to pick 3 singers, and 3 singers would sing, and there'd be a few minutes for, to finish the second half of that sentence with your companion, and then there'd be another 3 songs. And I always remember thinking the artistry with which he picked the people who were going to, the juxtapositioning, and I don't know if it was kind of conscious or instinctive, but he always did a fantastic job. That's not on Góilín. But I don't really remember any bad nights, I have to say. Maybe I'm just viewing it through rose-coloured spectacles, but I've always loved the Góilín. I've always loved what happens there. I do think it's magic, and sometimes ghosts visit. And I've been there when, where you just know somebody, one of our departed friends, you just know they're there. Like, it's not that I see ghosts or anything, but just in that atmosphere, and you just know that they're there, that they're present, and it's an amazing feeling, or just even that the ghost of a song, that quote that the Brendan Kennelly quote that everyone quotes via Frank Hart, Yeah, and Long for Living Voice, that one. There have been times that I have really kind of felt that happening as somebody was singing a song. Yeah. You know, and it's the most amazing feeling. It's very, very, it's not even strange, it's not uncomfortable, it's just you go, wow, you know, there it is again, you know. Yeah. Keeps you coming back.